Call to order the Colerain Township Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Wednesday, June 27, 2018. We'll begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to begin with a brief explanation of the process tonight for those who aren't familiar with this. There are two components to our comments this evening. The first is a listing of the functions of the board, and the second is a sequence of the activities of the board for this meeting. Primary functions of the BZA are to hear appeals from the administrative interpretation of a zoning code, such as administrative denial of a zoning permit, hear requests for variances, hear requests for conditional uses, and then finally hear requests for expansion or changes to non-conforming use or building. Now, sequence of events. The staff will present an overview of each case. That presentation will include photos, diagrams, and other material pertinent to the case. They will also make a recommendation to the board as to the disposition of the case. The chairman will next open a meeting to the appellant to present his or her case. Following this, anyone who is opposed to the appeal will be allowed to speak. After comments for and against the appeal have been heard, the chairman will close the public comment portion. Each board member will then address questions to the appellant, staff, and as appropriate, those opposed. After questions have been answered to the satisfaction of the board, the chairman will ask for a motion to approve or deny the request, and that vote is the final action of the board. In terms of housekeeping, for the public, please make all comments from the podium. All testimony is transcribed, and it is important that the transcriber hear your testimony correctly. The nature of the BZA is quasi-judicial, and respect for and by every participant is paramount. The chairman reserves the right to excuse from the hearing anyone displaying disruptive behavior. We will next go to roll call.
Ms. Wilson.
Present.
Mr. Bartholdt.
Here.
Mr. Price. Mr. Roberta. Present. Mr. Reiniger.
Here. Noting that there is a board member absent, we will ask to have Mr. Hill seated as one of our alternates. Thank you. Anyone who is going to testify tonight must be sworn in, and I would ask those that do wish to testify to stand and raise your right hand. Anybody? Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before the Board of Zoning Appeals? Say, I do. I do. Thank you. We have our first appeal tonight is BZA 2018-007. It's a request for a rear yard setback variance from section 7.3.1 for a proposed three-season room. The location is 11890 Kittredge Court, and the applicant owner is Stephen Hudipole. And a staff presentation.
Yes, this comes to you as a dimensional variance request into the rear yard setback. The property is located in the Fox Run subdivision. This is just south of Kemper Road. It's west of Pippin Road. His particular development was constructed primarily in the 1990s. This house was built in 1997. This is an aerial photograph showing the approximate location of the lot lines and the rear of the house. There's currently a patio in the location where is a proposal to construct a three-season room on the back of the house. This is the approximate location of that three-season room. This is aerial photograph showing the lot lines again and the approximate location of the proposed room. As you can see, most of the houses in this subdivision has a 35 front yard setback, 35-foot rear yard setback, that they are pretty much built right to the minimum standards. I actually put a chart in your staff report, which I normally don't do, but I did this just to illustrate how this particular property measures up with respect to the zoning minimum requirements. And it's pretty much just barely over the minimum requirements. This is the applicant's floor plan of the proposed addition. It also includes an open deck. The open deck portion is really not a part of this discussion because it does comply with the zoning. They could build a open deck in this particular location, but not an enclosed room addition. These are elevation drawings supplied by the applicant. As you can see, it has full insulated doors, walls, windows, so it is, for our purposes, considered to be a room addition. And side view of that as well. Again, the property plan. Staff findings are as follows. The property in question would likely yield a reasonable return without the variance. The property can reasonably be used as a single-family dwelling within the limits of the zoning regulations. The setback variances requested are substantial since the proposed building extends into the minimum side, or that'd be rear yard setback, by about 35%, 34%. The granting of the variance would grant a consideration that is not available to other property owners in the neighborhood. The granting of the variance would probably not have a negative impact on neighboring property, but would create a precedent to allow for rear additions if requested by neighboring properties. The reduction of the rear yard setback restricts the amount of open space in the applicant's rear yard. There could be a visual obstruction for neighboring properties. Approval of the setback variances would not affect the delivery of governmental services. There are no topographic issues related to the property that would constrain the reasonable application of the setback regulations without the variance if the variance is granted, as weighed against the potential detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighboring neighborhood and broader community. Staff finds its substantial justice would be done by not granting the variance request for the proposed room addition. We basically look back at why do we require a 35-foot rear yard setback. This is our densest zoning classification, but every property has a minimum amount of backyard. The idea is to preserve open space between houses and to have houses have the enjoyment of a rear yard open space. And we believe that this really goes against the intent of having that required minimum rear yard. Therefore, staff's recommendation is for denial of the variance request. Do you have any questions?
Does the board have questions for the staff?
Just one. So you've called this enclosed living space, I guess, per definitions. Is there anything that says it's not living space if it's not heated or air conditioned? Is it still living space?
No. It's the difference between being an open deck, which is like open to the outside, to the sky, basically, versus an enclosed building. And the definition of a building, it's got 4 walls and a roof, and this has 4 walls and a roof, so therefore it is a building.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for staff? Is the Ms. Wilson? Okay. Is the applicant here, and would the applicant like to address the board?
I would like to point out that at 11894.
Give me your name
My
and
name is
address.
Ted Klosterman. I'm the owner of the home.
Thank you.
I would like to point out that at 11894 Kit Run, there has been an addition made. So apparently there was a variance allowed for that. If you go back to the pictures, you can look at that and see. I don't understand, It's going to increase the property value and increase our enjoyment of the property.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant from the board?
That particular room addition was brought up to me by the applicant. I did a check, and that does not show up on the early aerial photographs of this subdivision, and it was added sometime later. However, a zoning permit was never issued for that addition. It was done about 10 years ago, as close as I could tell.
Okay. Anyone else speak in favor? Anyone else speak in opposition? I'll ask for a motion to close the public portion of this
So moved.
case. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Bartold?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Roberta?
Yes.
Mr. Reiniger?
Aye. Okay, questions from the board to the applicant. We will start with Mr. Roberto.
Sir, can you approach the podium? Thank you. So what is the justification for the hardship of why we should allow you to change the variances to accommodate your structure?
Really not a hardship. We just want to be able to enjoy our property a little bit more. The property at 11892 has 3 dogs that we cannot sit out in the backyard because the backyard smells because of the dogs. They do not take care of it. We just want to have a place where we can sit out and enjoy the sunlight, be able to see things.
Marty, what size would the room need to be in order for him to be within the specifications for the yard setback?
The current rear yard setback of the house is 35 feet. So any addition to the rear of the house would require a variance.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Hill?
I have no questions for the applicant.
Mr. Bartold?
No questions.
Ms. Wilson?
No questions.
I have a comment. One of my concerns is that when an individual creates a situation of their own design that intrudes into or conflicts with our zoning code, then that becomes a very difficult situation. And it is something that has been elected to be done. But I don't have any other questions for you, sir. Thank you. You may sit down. Any other questions for the board? If not, I'll ask for a motion to either approve or deny this request for variance.
I will make a motion to deny the variance.
Motion has been made to deny the request for the variance, and is there a second?
A second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there a discussion? If there is no discussion, I will ask for a roll call vote. A vote in the affirmative indicates a denial of the variance request.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Bartold?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Roberta?
Yes.
Mr. Reiniger?
Aye. The variance is denied. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business, and that is none. Then we have approval of the minutes for May 23rd, 2018.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for May 23rd, 2018 meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. There's a second, and is there discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to, a roll call vote to approve.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Bartold?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
I'll abstain. I was absent.
Mr. Roberta?
Yes.
Mr. Reiniger?
Aye. Very good. Our next meeting is scheduled for July 25th, 2018. Are there any administrative matters? No, there are not. Thank you. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion is made. Do we need a roll call vote for that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.